Alrighty, folks, welcome back to Technical Knockout, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hussein. And today we have a very special guest, professional heavyweight fighter, Gabe Rednose. What's up, Gabe? Say hi to the people.
How you doing, my friend? Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on again, dog. You know, we chatted right before you made your professional debut, around like August last year, I think it was. Now you've got that professional debut in the rear view, and you're ready to go for your next one. So I'm excited to have you on the show. You know, first interview went great. You're a good guy, very humble dude, professional. You know, and I respect that. So I'm happy to support you and have you back on the channel.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be here. Like I said, I always keep up with all your media content that you put up, and I like following along, and I appreciate the platform you give us, bro. It really means a lot to us fighters.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you for staying in the nation. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Without further ado, let's get into. I got some good questions for you this go around. So yeah, like I said, last time we talked, it was right before your professional debut. We talked a lot about how professional MMA. If for viewers who aren't familiar, a big distinction between amateur and professional MMA is part of the rule set. You know, you can usually do ground and pound in professional MMA, elbows as well. So what, if anything, for you was different about that debut fight compared to your amateur circuit?
Nothing was really different, because I've trained with some high level fighters the majority of my career towards after I started getting serious with it. So I've always kind of trained elbows and all of the, professional rule set anyways. So going into my professional debut, I didn't really have much of a change.
Yeah, so being able to throw those elbows, I'm sure was pretty liberating because, I know we talked about in the amateur fights, it's like you want it, it's like right there, but you can't do it. You know what I mean? So it was probably pretty freeing to get some of those off.
Yeah, for sure. It felt good. Felt like I've been practicing for a long time, so I never really got to. I usually wear elbow pads in gym and training stuff with all of my partners and stuff, so it felt good to let a few fly.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. So I mean, you kind of answered this question in the last thing you just said, but I'm assuming you haven't really changed your approach at all since turning pro, huh? It's just a matter of trusting the process that brought you here.
Correct. Yep. Still nose to the grindstone, waking up early, a lot of early mornings, late nights, and just trying to put the work in where I can, and try to get 1% better every day.
Yeah, man, that's what it's all about, I think everybody can learn from that in any profession that they're in or just in life in general, having that like student mentality.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, you've got a very grappling heavy style and approach to this sport. You're fighting at light heavyweight now. Last time we talked, you kind of alluded that you might want to move down to middleweight at some point in the future. Is that still something on your horizons, or think take it, one fight at a time here?
Yeah, I think so. I just signed a 3-fight deal with this promotion, Peak Fighting Championship. I assume that I'll probably ride out all 3 of these fights at 205, and then readjust and kind of reevaluate everything after that, and see what pops up and what all happens in the future, and possibly make the move down after this next 3 series.
Very nice, very nice. And now that you've got that deep grappling game in your back pocket, like we just talked about, the ground and pound is a big addition now to the professional MMA and the elbows and everything. What are some of your favorite fighters who use ground and pound? Like, I mean, I know you train with those guys up there, Joe Stevenson, Dan Henderson, those guys were known for ground and pound in their time, even Dominic Reyes to a certain extent. But do you have any other big influences when it comes to that style of fighting?
Not so much ground and pound, but just like, for example, I really enjoy watching Islam. I feel like I learn from him a lot just because of the control aspect of his game. He doesn't lose positioning very often, and I feel like that comes from his background of, wrestling and sambo and judo and jiu-jitsu and, all of the above. So I really kind of watching guys like Khabib and Islam, they kind of almost perfected the craft, I would say, by getting the fight to the mat and just controlling and dominating their opponent.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, there's a reason he's the number 1 pound for pound right now, and I don't think there's much dispute there. The guy has such a well-rounded game plan in every fight, and that grappling is that's the one in the chamber for him at all times. When you're training for the because I've seen like those guys like you just mentioned Khabib and Islam. Sometimes they'll put the training dummy on the ground and train ground and pound that way so they can kind of get like really brutal. When you're training, do you do something similar or is it all live rounds with your sparring partners?
Both. I for sure train a lot with like a dummy on the ground and just kind of work on shot placement and positions and angles and I try to put that into my live rolls as well.
Yeah, yeah, because you don't want to be slamming elbows into your buddies. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure.
Of
Yeah,
course, of course. I always whenever I train, I always train very smart and there's no need for any of that malicious training style for me. There's no point. None of us are getting paid to go in there and kill each other's brain cells in the
yeah.
gym. I try to save that for the cage and try to take care of all my training partners that I train with.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to hear that. Because I do think that there's I mean, I think it's been kind of waning in the recent years in the MMA community, but for a long time there was kind of like this tough men mentality. You know what I mean? And it's just refreshing to hear somebody like talk about it that like I mean we're not here to we're gonna kill each other in the cage. You know what I mean? Not at the gym. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly.
So with that pro debut in the rearview mirror, and it going as well as it did, assuming that this next fight goes just as well, do you want to maintain that kind of busy schedule that you had as an amateur fighter? When you were an amateur fighter, some nights you fought, 2 times in the same month, 2 times in the same week, even. Do you want to keep that kind of busy schedule you set for yourself, or do you plan on taking like a little bit more of a slow approach, taking some time in the holidays, anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to still stay active, but not near as active as I was as an amateur.
Mm,
It's just like, these training camps, they're expensive, and they're very exhausting. A lot of time away from my kids and my family. And, I like to give myself 6 to 8 weeks to really buckle down and, just like I said, nose to the grindstone. I'm gone 4:30 in the morning till, sometimes 10 o'clock at
well,
night. Obviously stopping back in, saying hello and changing clothes and showering or whatever. Uh, I'm a big family man, and I don't like missing out on any of my kids' stuff. And I'm still coaching my kids' t-ball team, and trying to keep that, in the mix as well. I'm really busy during fight camp, so it kind of puts a lot of added stress onto me. But I want to change it, and I for sure would like to get at least maybe 3 fights in this year.
nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's tough to keep such a busy schedule and maintain that, family life. As you talked about, you're a big family man. Last time we talked, you were talking about your kids, Parker and Riot, right? How they
Yes, sir.
doing?
Yes, sir. Growing like weeds, man. It's makes me sad, man. I get emotional once a week probably just thinking about how fast they're growing up already.
Yeah, I bet, man. So how old are they now? Like 5 and 3, or?
Nope, my son just turned 4, and then Parker's 5.5, and she'll turn 6 in August.
Nice, nice. Yeah, this is that age when they start getting their personalities and everything too. So I'm sure it's sobering to see.
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
oh yeah. Just last week, I taught them how to ride their bike without training wheels, so that's a
Nice, man.
big one in their life going on right
Yeah,
now.
that's amazing, dude. I'm happy to hear that, brother. Um, so yeah, so I mean, going back to the MMA game a little bit, we talked about it a few times now, but your grappling is a huge part of your game. Recently, I've heard some great fighters, guys like John Jones, Mighty Mouse. They talk about that they don't even train in the gi anymore. Is that something that you bring into your training camps? Do you do jujitsu in the gi, or do you stick to the no gi because it's kind of more in tune with MMA?
So I kind of have a different mindset than that. I actually, I really enjoy the
Hmm.
gi. Um, typically, in my opinion, typically anything that you can do in the gi can translate over to no gi. So it might be a little different, little different grips or whatever it may be. But I personally, I mean, I try. It not always happens, but I try to at least do a gi practice at least once a week.
Word. Yeah, I think it's a good tool to have. You know what I mean? Even if it's not explicitly in MMA like that, like you said, a lot of it translates. Pretty much everything. So, I think it's nice to pay homage to the kind of to the building blocks. You know.
For sure, for sure. And also, I still want to keep my, jujitsu journey and, leveling up. I'm close to a black belt, so they
Wow.
don't really they don't really level you up without,
Without
practicing
getting
in
in
the
that
gi.
gi.
So I exactly. So I try to, at least show up in the gi at least once a week, just so I can still keep moving that journey forward.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, yeah, it's all part of the martial arts journey. You know what I mean? It's not just MMA. We're training here. So awesome. Happy to hear that. So, representing the CNA tribes in your fights, it's a huge honor for you. You've mentioned it multiple times. You fly the flag every time you go out there, and I'm sure your community's proud to have such a respectful and honorable guy to fly that flag. What's something you'd like the MMA community, or just people in general, to know about your tribe specifically, or being Native American in general in 2025's America?
It's something that I take a lot of pride and honor in. Almost in every single one of my fights, I'll carry my Cheyenne and Arapaho flag out with me, and I just am really proud to have that in my heritage and carry that flag over my shoulders when I go to battle.
Hell yeah, man. So yeah, I mean, I've got a couple more questions MMA focused, but I do want to get into some more personal topics, or at least like off topic stuff. Let's say. Um, but first off, MMA Mount Rushmore. Everybody always mentions their goats. Who would be in your MMA Mount Rushmore? What would it look like? I mean, you don't have to give specifically four, but just in general, some of those goats that you'd put up there.
John Jones, of course. Khabib,
Nice,
Demetrius Johnson,
love it.
who I think he doesn't get as much love as he should. He's a beast, bro. I mean, he's very, very, very good. I'm gonna have to go with George St. Pierre.
I think
I think
that's
that would be my top four.
Yeah, that's an awesome top four. I mean, I think those are probably the best fighters in MMA history, like in terms of skill set and everything. You know what I mean? It'd be hard to pick somebody to take either one of those guys out. And I'm happy that you shine a light on Demetrius Johnson, because I do feel like he's a bit underappreciated in the wider MMA
For
community.
sure. Yeah, a lot of casuals just say, oh, he got traded out to one championship, and they don't give him the love he deserves. But I've been watching him and learning from him for a long time, and he is very methodical in his approach to the MMA game and his strategies whenever he gets in there. And I for sure think he deserves to be on Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely, and I love his like YouTube content as well. Like he does a lot of great
Yeah,
breakdowns and stuff. And even if he had spent those last couple of years in one championship, he's still fighting really good fighters over there, and still
for sure.
was putting in great work up until just now when he retired. One of the things I think people don't give enough credit to is that fight that he had with Rod Tang too. That was insane. You know what I mean? The half MMA,
Yeah,
half Muay Thai. That was
yeah,
awesome.
that's one championship for sure can mix it up and give us those crazy matches, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy watching one championship is because they do something that no one else really does, and that
Yeah,
match was that super fight I should say was pretty crazy,
yeah, that was a
which
cool concept.
it went exactly how I thought it would, and as it should,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
respectfully.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Rod Tang is as great as he is. He's never been like a one-punch knockout guy. So, when they made that fight, I was like, as long as Demetrius can, stay alive for the 3 minutes, yeah,
Survive, exactly.
then it's a different game.
Agreed.
I'd like to see some more of those kind of matchups, but I don't know if the UFC is ever gonna. I just feels like they're kind of, they're gonna stick to what they've been doing. If it ain't broke,
No,
don't fix it.
exactly, I agree.
So, let's say you're going out. You're gonna go out to dinner, right? You could choose three people: celebrities, politicians, musicians, whoever you want, dead or alive. Who's gonna be at your table?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm Denzel Washington, one of my favorite actors.
All right.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'd go with I'd love to pick Khabib's brain, so probably Khabib. And I'd love to talk to Daniel Cormier as well.
I love that combo, man. That sounds like a great table to hang out at. So let's talk a little bit about music. Are you listen to a lot of music? I think everybody does.
Yeah, usually when I'm working out, I usually have my headphones in.
Are you more of an album or a playlist guy?
I have a workout album that's, dude, I don't keep up with the new generation, but, everything coming out. So I have songs on there that are probably 10 years old that I still jam to, daily. So I don't, I have a couple buddies who it's kind of like their job to send me whenever, new fire songs come out. And if they're pretty good, I'll end up downloading them and stuff like that. But
Very cool.
typically I just have my old same playlist that I've had for probably 5, 6, 7 years and put it on shuffle and let it go.
Nothing wrong with the classics, man. Let me tell you. What's on there? What's been in the rotation lately?
Um, I'll play, yeah, typically it's rap, rock, nothing specific, but, just kind of some older songs from myself whenever I was growing up and songs that I know and actually like and know the words to. And, that's typically what I play.
Gets you in the zone.
For sure, for sure.
Do you got any questions you want to ask me, or you want to talk about any upcoming fights? We can talk about anything coming up, or just in general.
Yeah, I want to pick your brain. Who do you got? Patty or Chandler?
Oh, that's a good
You give me
question.
you give me yours first, and then I'll tell you what I think is going to happen next.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it comes down to if Patty is gonna fight smart or not. If he comes out here and tries to give the fans a show, if he tries to play into Chandler's game, so to speak, and get in the pocket and try to break Chandler's chin or something like that, I think there's a good chance that Michael Chandler knocks him out. Patty's always kind of kept his head up on his chin up a little high when he exchanges. Chandler's obviously
Exactly.
super explosive. But that being said, I think if Patty does fight smart, which I think he will, I think he'll stay on the outside, throw a bunch of leg kicks, throw a bunch of head kicks. His kicks are really good. I think they're very underrated. If Chandler crashes in the pocket and tries to get a takedown coming off of these kicks, I really highly rate Patty's jiu-jitsu. As much as I don't like the man, I have to give respect to his skills. And I think if Chandler runs in on something recklessly, Patty can snap him up in a guillotine or a triangle or something like that. So I am going to pick Patty here. I think he'll probably get it done by decision, but I think it's possible that he can get a submission in there. What do you think?
Hit the nail on the head, brother. I agree 100% with you. I think, except I think I do. I think I am going to go with Patty via submission, round 3.
I like that.
I
And
think, I think, I love Michael Chandler and he's a beast. Very explosive, very powerful, but he's super reckless, man. And I feel like you just said, if Patty plays his cards right and doesn't get in a, fist fight with him and actually, comes into this with the strategic plan, I think it's going to end up hitting the mat, and I think he's going to end up submitting him somehow.
I think that's a great shout. And I like the round 3 pick, too, because Chandler tends to gas out sometimes in these fights. You can't go – he goes 100% the whole time, and you really can't do that
For a fact.
for 15 minutes. So, yeah, I think if he gets a little exhausted, starts to kind of go into the default mode he has, which is wrestling, Patty can snap him up into
Yep,
something. Patty made Bobby
I
Green
agree.
shoot a takedown, like, with the pressure and the kicks and stuff, and I don't think we've ever seen Bobby
Exactly.
really
And
shoot.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bobby Green is for sure not a grappler, and when you turn a striker into a wrestler, that's saying something.
Yeah, yeah, like what Nate Diaz said when he fought Connor the first time, said, "Oh, so you're a wrestler now."
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
What do you think about Lopez and Volkanovski this weekend?
I think it's similar. I really think it's similar. I think if Diego plays his cards right, I think he could get a finish via submission. It could. It's hard. It's hard because Volk. I hate to say it, but I think Volk is on his way out. I don't think. I hate to say that because he's a legend, man, and he's really good at what he does. But
Hmm.
I just think that age is catching up with him, and then taking all these short notice fights is catching up with him. Given he's had a year off or so, but I could see. I'm not gonna say submission or knockout, but I could see a finish for sure from Diego Lopez.
Yeah, I agree, man. It hurts because I love Volk. I think a lot of the MMA community does. He's a great guy. Family man,
Yep.
super
Yep.
humble, funny guy. And
Yep.
I just, Father Time is undefeated, man. And
100%.
especially when you're fighting somebody like Diego Lopez, who's just so dangerous in every phase of the fight. Like you said, I think a lot of people underrate his submission ability, but his knockout power is very prescient. And if he can get in that pocket with Volk, where
Yep.
Volk's been
Yep.
hurt before. Not even like disregarding the knockouts from Ilya and Islam, which we shouldn't disregard them. But even before in his career, like I remember him getting stunned by Brian Ortega. I remember him kind of
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
stunned by
Yep.
Aldo at one point in their fight. Like, so it's not like he's always had this iron chin. You know what I mean? And whenever that goes down as you get older, it only takes one from a guy like Diego, So I'm worried
Yeah, for
about
sure.
Volk.
It's going to be a hard check hook coming in the pocket, or I think if it hits the mat, I think his jiu. I mean, he's a 2-degree black belt, and given we seen what Volk did and when Islam was on his back, but
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of a different style of submission game that he'll be attacking him with. So I don't
agreed.
know. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Lopez via stoppage, round 4.
Okay, all right, I like it. Very nice. What about some of these fights coming up on kind of the horizon? So we got the Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Do you have a favorite in that fight?
I don't know why Bilal gets so much hate, bro. I mean, he gets in there and he's a damn good fighter. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, people, statistics don't lie and numbers don't lie. And, he gets in there and he does what he has to do to get his hand raised. And, they always say 2 checks is better than 1. So
Yeah,
you can't
that's
really,
right.
can't really hate him for doing that.
Yeah,
I like him. I think he's a beast and, cardio for days, takedown for days. And, you know, when he has to stand and trade, you seen what he did to, what's his name?
Sean Brady.
Yep, you seen what he did to him on the feet. So it's not like he has zero striking ability. So I feel like he's, a pretty good all around fighter, and I got Bilal winning that fight.
Yeah, I agree completely, man. I think I love Jack Della Maddalena. Don't get me wrong. I love his style. I think it's great. The boxing heavy approach in MMA. But we've seen him have struggles with guys who want to take him down over and over. You know what I mean? Even Gilbert Burns
Yep.
had a lot of success in that fight until he, kind of imploded and got really tired. I don't expect Bilal to really ever get tired in there. So I think it's going to be the Bilal Muhammad
That's what I'm
show. You
saying.
know what I mean?
Yeah, he might be able to stuff 1 or 2 takedowns, but Bilal's going to have 20 of them in the
Yeah.
chamber ready to go. So he might not get the first one, he might not get the second one, but he's eventually going to get him on the mat where he wants him, and I think that's how he's going to win the fight.
Yeah, I agree. And then coming up, we got another, well, not another, but a rematch for the bantamweight belt. Is Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. I'm sure you saw the first fight. You're a big fight fan. What do you think about this rematch? You think there's going to be any adjustments made? I mean, I don't want to influence you, so I want to hear your opinion first.
I mean, I've watched Sean O'Malley in a lot of jiu-jitsu matches, and his jiu-jitsu game really isn't actually bad. He just doesn't train it. I mean, I think he's a brown belt. I'm not sure. I mean, he has a respectable jiu-jitsu game. I just don't think he has ever really had to utilize it. So I think with this approach, if he plays his cards right and actually gets back into the jiu-jitsu room and starts grappling again like he should for a fight like he's going to be in, it's a toss-up. Marab's one of those guys who doesn't get tired either and has one of probably, if not the best cardio, one of the best, if not the best cardio in the game. I
Agreed.
think, I could see it going to decision maybe, or I could see Marab maybe getting the finish late in championship rounds.
I'm excited to see what
Respectfully,
happens.
because I like Sean O'Malley a lot, but Sean O'Malley, I mean, I don't know, man. All it takes is one punch. You know what
Yeah.
to say. So it's a good fight, and I'm definitely interested to see what happens.
Yeah, that last fight that Marab had against Umar, I really ate a lot of crow on that one, I'll tell you, because I really was confident in Umar going into that fight, and even still, it was a very
For
close
sure.
fight, but Marab definitely won, but it was super close.
Yeah.
But in that I rewatched the first fight, O'Malley and Marab, and I forgot how O'Malley really hurt him bad in the body or to the body in the fifth round, and it's kind of like
Yep.
the only
Yep.
time he went to the body in the whole fight. So I think coming into this matchup, if he can utilize those body strikes early and use that teep that he has a really nice teep. I think he can do some good damage on Marab this go around. And we saw Marab be very not tentative but patient in their first fight, and I was like, man, that fight really sold me on Marab, that first O'Malley fight, because going into it, I was like, man, Merab comes in so recklessly. He's going to get caught. Like, O'Malley's a sniper. And then we saw what happened. Merab changed his entire plan and was able to implement it just as good, you know? So, I really have to give a lot of credit to his coaches and to him for adapting to that game plan. But I do think if he does that again, if he plays that kind of patient all the way out and then all the way in kind of fight, there's a good chance he can keep winning this matchup. But I think there's some things that O'Malley can tweak from the first fight that he'll have a bit more success this go around, particularly those body kicks. So I'm really excited to see how it happens. And it's actually going to be in Jersey, not too far from where I am. So I may be able to sneak some tickets. I don't know. We're going to see. They're super expensive these days. It's crazy.
Dude, that'd be sweet. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, the last one I went to, I actually have the cup here, was Makhachev and Poirier. That was the one in Newark last year.
And
that was awesome.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, I went to Jones versus Gain in Las Vegas.
Oh, nice, dude.
Gone, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't
Jones
that,
versus Gone, sorry.
Didn't Amanda Nunes fight on that card, too? I think she did.
I believe so. So.
I just remember them putting the two of them on the billing a couple of times. It's like the male goat and the female goat. You know what I mean? So it was a great billing order. But yeah, man.
It's crazy atmosphere.
Yeah, no, going to the fights live is insane. I mean, you're a fighter. You know what I mean? But when you're at that like huge event like the UFC or any of the other established MMA organizations, it's a completely different game than when you're watching it on TV. I love it. I just wish it wasn't so damn expensive these days. You know?
Crazy expensive, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, man, I'm about ready to wrap things up, bro. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, brother. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm happy to sponsor for your next fight on the T-shirt, man. Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Heck yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you for doing it, man. Like I said, I follow all your content, and I love what you do for us fighters, giving us this platform to come on here and talk to you, and just talk fights and talk about our career, and it really means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to all the other fighters, and I'm honored to have you on my shirt, and I'll be sending you one here soon.
You're a sweetheart, bro. I'm honored to have you on the show, man. It's good to have somebody who knows what they're doing and, is a big student of the game as well. You know what I mean? I'm going to cue up this outro music, and we'll wrap this up, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Gabe, for coming on the show. Guys, check out his next fight. It's going to be at Peak Fighting Series. You got any plugs you want to shout out, Gabe?
To shout out to all my sponsors, my family, my friends, my haters. You guys always push me to 1% better every day, and let's get our hand raised May 10th.
Hell yeah, man. I'm rooting for you, brother. All right. Take it easy, y'all. Thank you for watching.